What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel, and welcome to and I cannot stress this enough, a very basic guide on logic, logic gates, and all that complicated stuff in Oddsparks. Welcome, welcome to the video. Okay, so if I didn't lampshade that enough, this is not a comprehensive guide to a lot of this stuff. I've been trying to figure out more examples to show all of you, and yeah, if I had continued sitting here and trying to come up with examples, it would have been ages before I would have psyched myself up to actually make this video. Because right now I kind of feel like I'm not qualified enough to cover this topic, but whatever. Okay, it is what it is. I'm here now. I've decided that I'm going to record something, so I'm going to record something. Let's get into this. What am I talking about here? I am talking about when you get into like tier 5 and beyond, you unlock the logic ability, which encompasses wires and things that you can hook up to wires, and they do various things, and it's all very useful for doing less than basic functions, A to B and stuff like that, like with pathing and your stumps and stuff. This is by no means necessary in order for you to progress in this game. You could very happily go through the entire game without using things like trains and logic and wires and all that stuff. Just using path add-ons and things like that, you'd be completely fine to do it. This is more just if you want to get a little bit deeper into experimentation with some of the gameplay. I would recommend that you take a look at all of these things and at least try to kind of parse out some of the information on your own. But anyway, let's go over some of the basic stuff first. Wires. Wires act very similarly to pathing as far as how you place them, but they are used to connect your devices and all that stuff. So you can, put down a stretch of wire. As far as I can tell, there is no limit on the distance that a wire can travel. I've seen setups where people have gone clear from like this type of a waypoint, or actually I think it was even further, it was like over here. But they've taken a waypoint and gone all the way back to their first one with just a length of wire. So I don't think there's a limit on how far a wire can go, but I haven't personally tested the limits of it yet, anyway. Mostly because eventually you will unlock the next thing that is necessary. Oh, and a wire bridge just makes it so that you can go over one wire without touching another wire. Pretty self-explanatory. But eventually, you will unlock the wireless signal sender and the wireless signal receiver, which, if you watched my video on how to set up your ancient waypoints properly, you are already familiar with this. But if you are not, the way it works is if come over here and I'll show you the ones I've got set up already. If you set one of these down, and then you put an item identifier in it, in which case this one has Rocky Sparks in it, right over here. Whatever signal is tied to this one, if you activate this, it will then activate the necessary receiver, which would be over here. The example that I set up in my Ancient Waypoint guide. So, there you go. Pretty easy to figure out on that one. Let's go ahead and head on back here. Okay, as far as the next things are concerned, I have not unlocked them yet, so I can't talk about these just yet. Eventually, we'll get into that stuff, but as far as basics are concerned, you don't need to worry about that right now. I actually don't even know which tier those are in. I imagine that it would be tier 6, possibly. Yeah, that's the ribbon reader, the ribbon writer, and possibly the 4-pixel display, which, as far as I know, the ribbon reader and ribbon writer makes it so that you can put multiple commands through a single stretch of ribbon, but you don't need to worry about that. Anyway, let's get into some of this other stuff, some of the slightly more complicated things. Okay, you've got various logic inputs which control how signals are sent and how they're interpreted via conditions. Some of the simpler ones are going to be your switches, obviously, which I've got one set up right here. This has 2 modes to it. You can see a little light come on most of these things that'll show if it's on or off. This is the on position. This is the off position. pretty easy to understand. When this is on, it will send a constant signal, and when it's off, no signal. So, everybody get that? Understand? Cool. Let's move on to the next thing. A signal timer, which I've actually used these a fair bit in my builds thus far. But the way that these work is you've got two sections to it. You've got the brown side and the white side. White side means that it is sending a signal. Brown side means that it is off. And you can adjust these for 10 seconds on either side. So you can set it up for sending a continuous signal for 10 seconds. And then you can set the off function for however long you want. So you can adjust it very well. Some of the better uses I've found for this would be if you send a signal for 8 seconds and then wait for 10 seconds. That's the perfect amount of time to activate and deactivate a thrower for optimal uptime, which I guess I could show that off real quick just to do that. So let's head on over to one of my farms over here. Okay. So I've got my timer set up here for 8 seconds activation. It's going to throw for 8 seconds. That's enough time to throw all 10 of your sparks, and then it'll deactivate for 10 seconds, which gives you just enough time to have all of your sparks come back, and it'll give you a little bit of downtime while, you get ready for the next cycle. If you wanted it to be 100% uptime, you could probably lower the wait time down to like 7 seconds. I don't know. But I keep it at 10 seconds just because. So yeah, timers. There you go. Easy peasy. Those are not too bad. It feels like I'm rushing through some of this stuff. It's because I am. Some of this basic stuff you don't really have to worry that much about because we have quite a few examples to get through. So anyway, capacity sensors and motion sensors. Capacity sensors are also very, very useful, depending on, well, obviously, how you want to use them. So the description for this is a logic building that sends a signal when the inventory it is observing has reached a certain capacity. Now, the way this works is it looks at a container, and you can set it up for two different sensor modes, which is a percent or an absolute. Difference being percentage would be the out of the total capacity of anything that you are checking, whereas absolute is for individual items. So, yeah, or individual item amounts, I suppose would be the more accurate way to word that. You can do less than or equal to or greater than or equal to for your percentage. If you don't know what that means, then pretty much equal to or below the percentage or greater than or equal to the percentage presented. So, yeah, pretty, I don't know. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. But if you have any questions in regards to that, then feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get into the next thing. Motion sensor. I have not used these very much. There was a small example of this in my little train guide where I used it to do a signal, but I haven't utilized it very much. But yeah, the way this works is it will send a on signal when it detects movement, whether that's movement of, say, this enemy right here, us. It will detect us as we run through. It will also detect sparks as they move through an area as well. So, yeah, movement. So if I put this here, it will then detect the sparks as they're running through. And then if there are no sparks or nothing moving through, it will then turn off the signal. So, yeah, I haven't found a great usage for those yet, but I'm experimenting with stuff still, obviously. And whenever I find out more of that stuff, I will be sure to let you all know. But okay, last one for the logic inputs is a pressure sensor, which you can use in a number of different ways. You can press on it yourself using your own weight. I utilize that function for my little ancient waypoints. So that way, once I warp away, it's no longer sending a signal. So that way you're not wasting resources. You can set it up for a rudimentary timer, like I have right here as an example for the counters, which we'll get to the counters a little bit later. And you can also use it to, I don't know, if you really wanted to set up little signals and things like that I've got set up here, you can utilize something like that. Oh, another funny thing you can do with the pressure sensors is, where the heck is my closest railroad? It's over here. If you've got a train coming and you put a pressure sensor under where the track aligns, like say if I put a pressure sensor right here, when the train goes above it, it will actually activate the pressure sensor, which is kind of funny. I'm sure you could find inventive ways to utilize that if you were so inclined. But, okay, let's move on to the logic gates here. Okay, so you've got a number of them, some of which I have examples of me using, and others I could not figure out a way to use them, at least with my builds and my limited intellect. So let's get into some of these. The NOT gate, a logic gate that sends a signal if it has not received a signal, and stops sending a signal if it receives one. So I've got a rudimentary example set up right here. So the pressure sensor is acting as the signal sender. So right now there is nothing on the pressure sensor, so it is activating the LED light on the side. If I step on the pressure sensor and start sending signal, it will then not send a signal. You see where it gets the name? Not? Okay, anyway. You can combine this with other things, and I'll show an example of that in a moment, once we cover some of these other things. But yeah, pretty much you press a button and it stops doing what it was doing. So you can use that in interesting ways. Next up, we have an AND gate. This is a logic gate that sends a signal if it has received signals from both inputs. And one thing I should probably cover, let's see, can I make one of these right now? No, I need some wooden panels. Let me grab some wooden panels and I will explain something that I probably should have explained a little bit earlier, because, yeah, it's a little bit important. Because I kind of glossed over it a little bit, but I realize now I should have probably given a little bit more, I don't know, in-depth explanation of how some of these things work. Never mind me running past all of my other examples and tutorials that I've been setting up and doing. I should probably just dismantle them, save some of the frame rate. Okay, where the heck did I have freaking wooden panels over here? Got them over here. Where the heck are they? Where the heck are they? Oh, right. I changed this thing around so it wasn't always just sitting here not doing anything. Maybe I should set up a wooden panel setup. Right now, that's one of those things that I just don't have floating around like I used to. Yeah, I guess I have some here. Let's grab some of these. Okay. Let's run back over to our little examples. Here we go. There they are. Okay. So, where was I? Right. AND gate. Let's explain some things here first. So, when you're in your wire mode, like so, you'll see various icons, and let's rotate this, actually, slightly. So, when you're looking at the various icons, they will correspond with how things work. So, if you see this plug, that is where an input, i.e., one of your logic inputs, will plug into. Oh wait, sorry, no. Switch that. Switch that. Sorry. Like I said, I'm not like super duper, qualified to be talking about this stuff. But anyway, let's use an example over here that I have set up for this. So in this example of an AND gate, hang on. You can see that I have two inputs here. I've got a switch and a pressure sensor, and those are plugged into these two little, I guess, I don't know what these would be, sockets? I guess these would be sockets. And then from there, there's another plug here, which will then plug into your final little output. Which this isn't making a lot of sense while I'm explaining it. I'm realizing that. But the way the AND circuit works is it has to have inputs from two separate sources. So in this case, if I step on this pressure sensor, it's only gaining 1 input. Okay, so it's not going to do anything. So you have to actually flip this switch. If I flip this switch and I'm standing on this pressure, that's receiving 2 different signals, and then it will go to the end result, which is turning on the light. If I don't step on here, then it'll turn off, and so on and so forth. So, pretty self-explanatory. Of all of these, you'll probably be using AND gates the most. One of the functions that you can see actually on the start menu is a train that's being loaded and checked via capacity sensors, and they use like 3 AND gates, I think, in order to send the train off at a specific moment. But yeah, that's how an AND gate works. It's pretty useful for a lot of different things, I'm sure, but anyway. Okay, next up is an OR gate, a logic gate that sends a signal if it has received a signal from at least one of its 2 inputs. So this one I've got set up here. The way this works is if it sends, or if it gets a signal from one of them, it will then complete the loop, as it were, but only if one of them has been pressed or activated. So I guess this would work if, man, I don't know. I had a lot of trouble coming up with examples because, like I stated in the beginning, you don't need to use any of these things if you don't want to. If you find it too, I don't know, taxing to try and come up with reasons to use this, you don't have to. But yeah, anyway, two different sources. They both do the same end results, which, yeah, you're probably smarter than me and you can figure out a way to use this. Next up, we've got the XOR gate, the XOR gate, XOR gate. I don't know. I'm not a coder / electrician, so. Okay, this is a logic gate that sends a signal if it has received exactly 1 signal. So the way this works is if I step here and do that, it'll send a signal. Very cool. If I flip this switch, it'll send a signal. Cool. If I step on this and then flip this switch, it will not send a signal. So, yeah, pretty much this will only work if one of the 2 things is done. So, I'm sure you can find a good way to utilize that. I have not found a good way to use this yet. I'm very excited to hear what the comment section is going to hear about this, or say about this video, because there's going to be some good examples in there, I'm sure. But let's move on to the next little setups here. So those can all be used in single-ish operations for the most part, depending on how you want to utilize them. The next ones, the next gates, the buffer gate and the filter gate, those are pretty much going to be used in conjunction with other gates. Again, I haven't found great usages for them, but the buffer gate, anyway, a logic gate that sends a signal if it has received a signal and keeps sending it for some time after it stops receiving the signal. So this would probably work well with, like the setup that I've got right now is it's set up on a timer. That is every 0.1 seconds it will send a signal, and then it will wait for 10 seconds, and then it'll move along the line, and it'll activate here, and it'll send the signal for 2 seconds. Likewise, if I flip this switch and keep it on, it'll just constantly send the signal. And yeah, no, it's pretty much just how it works. Again, I haven't found a great usage for it. You can send this signal for up to 10 seconds if you want. So I suppose this would be something you could do if you wanted to set up, I don't know, activating this timer for, once every 10 seconds or something like that. And then you want to activate something for X amount of seconds. But yeah, again, I haven't found a great usage for it. So anyway, let's move on to the next one. We've got the filter gate. This is a logic gate that sends a signal only if it has received a signal for some time. So I guess you could use a filter gate with, one of these buffer gates, and you could use them in conjunction, possibly. This would then guarantee access to activating this if that was something you wanted to do. But anyway, this is set up for, 2.5 seconds. So if I step on the switch for 2.5 seconds, bam, it'll complete the circuit. Second you step off, turns off though. So slightly different from the buffer gate. If anything, it's like the opposite of the buffer gate, in a sense. Anyway, so The counter gate, a logic gate that sends a signal after it has received a number of signals. So the way this works is I've got this little setup over here on a, like I stated earlier, a rudimentary timer. I've got a 2-section path set up with a little dude running on it, and every single time he touches a pressure switch, this number is going to change over here. And you can set these for different displays. You can also reverse the orientation if you so choose. And you can use these to set up prolonged activation, or I guess conditional activation of things, i.e. how many times a thing has been activated. So in this case, this example would be every single time he runs over the little switch, the counter goes up. And because I've got this counter connected to this counter, they work in conjunction to send the final signal, which the final signal I've got for this one is going to an AND gate, which is right here. So once this reaches 20 ticks over, it will send a signal, and then, yeah, it'll activate this thing over here. So I've got it set up for that. Yeah, pretty easy, I guess. But I don't see your average player using this at all, by the way. This is purely for people that want to go really in-depth with some of these builds and stuff like that. The next ones I still don't have a usage for, but we'll kind of go over them briefly before I explain this whole thing I've got set up here. Okay, so next up we've got the data flip-flop. This is a complex logic gate, so you know I'm already in trouble. I'm not a very complex guy. The main input sets the outputs when the state of the clock input changes from not receiving a signal to receiving a signal. Okay. I still don't fully understand how this works. But I know depending on how you set up, say, a timer, it can change how things work. So if I input here and send a signal straight across the left-hand light, and then I step off this, for a certain amount of time, it will continue sending a signal to the left-hand side until the clock ticks over, and then it resets the signal to the right side. So if I set this to send signal for, I don't know, 0.1 second, and then I wait for, I don't know, 2 seconds. So if I step on this and activate the left side, and then step off this, it'll continue sending the signal until it ticks over on the timer for activation on the right side. So likewise, if I change this all the way to, 10 seconds, press this over here. Once that activates the timer again, it'll then flip to the other side. Flip to the other side, there you go. And if I step off of this, it'll then take the 10 seconds for it to go around, and then once it does, it'll then reorient the signal to the right side, like that. Same thing. If I step on this before the activation period activates, nothing will happen, at least on the left-hand side is concerned. So you do have to wait for the orientation to flip. But yeah, I don't know. You could set this for, no time, or what was it? It was set it for that, and then set it for that. And the way this would work is it'll reset the signal the second you stop putting an input on one side, which I don't know if that's the proper way to use it. I really doubt it. Again, I haven't found a good usage for it practically as far as examples are concerned, so I'm probably using it the wrong way. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. This is the set reset latch, a complex logic gate. Again, yada yada yada, I'm in trouble, so on and so forth. A main input sets the outputs and stops them from changing. The reset input resets the current setting. So the way this works is this is kind of an and or gate, but that's not the right way to word it. I mean, the right way to word it is literally how they have it worded. It's a set reset latch. So the way this works is if I step on this, it'll activate the left side. If I step on this, it'll then flip to the right side. And it doesn't matter what I do now, it'll stay on the right side. Same thing, if I retouch the right switch, it'll stay on the right side. And if I step on the left switch, it'll reorient to the left side. So It's just an and or, I suppose. Yeah, again, I haven't found a good usage for this. There are much smarter people playing this game than me, and unfortunately, they're not making guides. So my hands are tied. You're gonna have to deal with my incompetency. Anyway, let's move on from that. So you can see either or off of two inputs. I suppose you could set this up with timers or capacity sensors and stuff like that, but I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know. Okay, let's move on to this thing I have set up over here. This is quite possibly, at least as far as what I can conceive, the most complicated splitter I could possibly make. So the way this works is it is set up on a rudimentary timer via the little dude running back and forth. That's set up on a counter, which is set up for sending a signal every 10 ticks or 20 ticks or whatever the ticks are set up for. That is then set up on an AND gate, which is then set up to a one-way, and that AND gate is then set up via a capacity sensor to this crate right here. And the capacity sensor is set up for 40% of, less than or equal to 40%. So if this inventory is at 40% or less, it will activate on this side, which means conditionally, if it meets up with the timer activation, then this one-way will be activated and lock them into this loop. So if, like, say I had a building right here, which was being fed from a singular supply, then they would only be feeding the building right now. So that's why they're running the little loop. But the second that they fill this inventory up to 40% or higher, the one-way then deactivates, and then they run over here and they deposit their inventory into this crate, which then feeds into this line, and they start moving it back and forth. It's a really, really needlessly complicated splitter. That's it. That's all it is. It's a timer-based splitter. But this is some of the stuff that you can do. This is not useful at all, by the way. I just set this up just as an experiment for myself. So yeah, you can get needlessly layered with how this logic works. Let's go on. Let's move on to a slightly more useful example, and I'll see you guys in a moment. Okay, so this example is a setup of a NOT gate and capacity sensors, along with the NOT gate is set up between a capacity sensor and a one-way. So the way this would work is it will prioritize certain buildings being filled, and if it reaches capacity, then it will swap to the next available building. So the way this is going to work is, okay, so if this is empty, because I've got this capacity sensor set up to 100% greater than or equal to, so if it's at 100%, it will then send a signal to the NOT gate to deactivate the one-way. So if I collect this, it'll then activate the one-way, so then they'll be running along to the left-hand side building first. So if I run these over to, let's just throw some of these in here just to do that. This building is then going to run until it reaches full quantity on sawn timber. And then once it's full, because of the NOT gate and the capacity sensor, it will then flip the orientation, or rather, I guess the polarity of the one-way, and turn it off. And then from there, instead of the hauling sparks routing to the left-hand side, they will then move to the right-hand side first, and then start putting it in here and making bark. So if you wanted to prioritize along one track, you could do something like this. Again, I'm not sure how incredibly useful this would be, but yeah, if you wanted to specify one building over another without using a splitter, here you go. This is one way you could do it. How full are you? You're pretty full. You're pretty close. We could wait this out for a second. How you guys doing, by the way? Have I been talking too fast? I feel like I've been talking too fast. All right, so that should be filling up pretty soon. Or does it go to 20? It might go to 20. Okay, let's just fill this up then. So that's full. Now the one way is turned off, and now they're going to start putting the inventory into the into this. Oh, I could take this out of here too. And likewise, you could set up another, thing for this as well. So that way, conditionally, if this happens, then, I don't know, they could route along a completely different track. Maybe go over to the left or something like that. Some of your limiting factors are obviously going to be how your wire is pathed around. Like, I wouldn't be able to put a one-way here and feed it off of this one because, I don't know, you'd have to do some nonsense with the wires and go, like, feed it all the way around, like, this way and stuff like that, and that's just excessive. But it really depends on how much you want to actually, get involved with these systems, I suppose. Why do I have two of you guys following me around? Oh, I must have accidentally done that. Whatever, we can keep you in the inventory. Okay, let's move on to the next example. This one's going to be slightly more useful than this setup. All right, here we are for the next example. So the way this works is it's set up off two capacity sensors, a NOT gate, and an AND gate. And the way this functions is it's checking both this inventory for this crate and this inventory for this barrel. And the way this works is if either of this barrel or this crate are not at 100%, I believe I set them for 100%. Yes, 100%. 100%. Okay. If they are not at 100%, it will then turn on the one-way and lock them in this loop, replenishing this crate and this barrel. And if they are full, then any wheels that get sent through here will route them along this path to the recycler. So if I were to take a stack from this, that will then activate the one-way, so that way they're stuck in the loop until they refill that crate. So you can see here on the AND gate, only one side is activated. So that would be this barrel is activated. Or rather, the capacity sensor on the barrel is activated because this is at 100%. So now it's just a matter of getting enough wheels to fill this one, and then all the excess can then get flooded off into the compressor. So this is one of the more useful examples, but you could do this other ways, using pathways and item filters and all that stuff. There are other ways you could do it without utilizing logic gates. But if you wanted to utilize logic gates, you can. As far as examples are concerned, I think that's like really the only thing that I've set up. I guess I could show what I did with the with my train system slightly. So the way I've got this set up is this is based off of a capacity sensor and my Mantis farm over here, which we're looking pretty good as far as, what we've collected into this so far. Yeah, I would say so. Pretty dang full and stuff, but okay. The way I've got this set up is I've got a sensor right here, which is set up to activate this train station. So this train will not go until this signal is sent, which this capacity sensor is set up for 50% of this cargo unloaded. So once 50% of the cargo has been taken, this train will then leave. Right now it's full, so they can't send it. If I really wanted to guarantee that it would send, I would set up a compressor, like, over here, this kind of a thing. And you could set this up conditionally as well, so if I moved it over slightly and then set up a capacity sensor for, like, say, this crate right here to only activate a path to the right if this crate is full, that would work. Like if I put if I put it like here, right? Then I set up the path like this. And then I got a capacity sensor, which, please tell me I can afford one. Yes, I can. Okay. If I set this up here, okay, And then I would set up... will this work with just a one-way? I don't know, maybe. I need more wood. Have any wood over here? No. Hang on. Hang on. That's not wood. That's leaves. Ugh. Doing this stuff on the fly. I'm losing my voice. To my dismay, I recorded a video of Soulstone Survivors today. By the way, that game's coming out the 17th. I recorded a video for Soulstone Survivors, and I didn't realize I had my mic muted. Ugh. So, I ended up talking into the void for ages. Anyway, so, we could set up a one-way here. We could set up a wire to there, and then that will activate if this is full. So we would go percentage, set this for 100, and if it's greater than full, or greater than or equal to 100%, we got ourselves a NOT gate, and we did, would it be this way? No, it'd be the other way. So let's reorient this, like so. If we got our wire, if we disconnected this, plugged this into this, plugged this, without connecting to this, by the way. Oh yeah, I should probably show this too. If you see this icon above your gates, that means it's plugged in incorrectly. So, probably should have led with that. Again, not a great guide, but whatever. Then if I set this up to here, when this detects this is full, it will deactivate this one-way. So if I were to take some out of this one, let's just take one out of here for now. Well, no, that's going to get full immediately. So if I take that, it's going to turn on the one-way and make it so that they guaranteed replenish there. So if I connect this path now, then this will function perfectly. So they will compress what they don't have. They will grab from the train first. And there you go. Not too bad. I suppose I'd want to have this oriented slightly differently, so that way they drop off to the crate first, but whatever, the concept still applies. I suppose if I wanted to do that, I would have to move this. Yeah, I put this on the wrong side. Dang it! Let's move it again. Here, let's do the run through and do it again from scratch, so that way you guys can see it. And I'm not an idiot. I was doing it for you as an example. You're welcome. Okay, so let's put this on this side. let's do this again. My inventory is full. Okay, so here, you can have that back. Okay. Okay. Let's get rid of you guys just to get you out of my inventory, huh? There you go. Okay. Right. Okay, let's set it up again, just as an example. Okay. Let's set up this sign over here, I guess. We'll grab a capacity sensor. Oriented towards this box. Okay. We'll open up. We'll grab our NOT gate. We'll set it up, I guess, here? Sure. Why not? That's fine. Okay. We'll then get our path here. We'll get our one-way here. Face it that way. We'll get our wiring set up. And that's going to go from here to here. And you're going to go from here all the way to here. And there you go. That should be good, I think. Alright, so you're set up for that. We'll set you up for 100% greater than or equal to. And bingo, bango, bongo. There you go. Set up. That means they will drop it off at the crate first, and then when they have an opportunity, then they will reroute to this. And that makes it so that this train will never get stuck here, and it will always at least have an out for that. But only if this is full. Only if this is full. So if I were to take this guy away, it'll then activate the one way, and then they'll prioritize grabbing and putting in this crate first. So, yeah. There you go, I guess. That's how you can set that up, I suppose, on the fly. I suppose that's an improvement to this whole setup. Cool, that works. Right, anyway, this supposed guide has probably gone on long enough. Hopefully, this can help some of you all out, but again, I'm very much looking forward to the comments on this one, because there are some really smart people playing this game, and they should probably be putting out guides and videos, not me. But anyway, I will see you all in the next video. As I've been saying in the comments, I will be planning on making more videos and getting certain things, and I swear I'm gonna do the supply chest very soon. All I need to do is literally turn in some etheric clumps, and I'm gonna do that the first thing next episode. I'm also gonna turn in the last Rocky Sparks and do the Mountain Spark R&D. So if you guys have been watching the series thus far, I will make progress soon. I promise. I promise. But anyway, I will see you all in the next one. Again, if you have any suggestions for guides, if you have any tips, if you have anything that you want to admonish me for because I should have and could have done it better, leave it in the comments. But anyway, I will see you all later. Bye-bye.